guys, I'm Alicia Davis.
And I'm Trio Springer, and this podcast is a whole bunch of real life. Yep, life as a woman and a mom can be hard sometimes. We totally get it.
We've learned that discovering our unique talents and remembering our potential gives us the ability to tap into our own power, and it's amazing. Plus, it's always better to journey through life with a sis, right?
Right. Sis, you have more power and potential than you realize.
We see you and we believe in you. You've got this, sis. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We're glad to be with all of you.
Yes. We want to get to the power punch today because we have a really important topic that has been on my heart for a really long time, and Alicia's too. And it has come up that we are able to, I think, finally articulate it the way that we hope to. Yeah. And so we want to talk with you today about value and worth, and about your value and your worth.
Trio, you had a really good example of what valuing something means. Go ahead.
Yes. So I have a quick story. And what we want to highlight for you is that value is placed on something based upon the value you place on it, not necessarily because of its price or its cost or its monetary value, or because somebody says it's important. It's because of how you view it and value it. And my short story is that I am the last of 6 kids, and my 2 older sisters are 12 years older than me and 9 years older than me. And they were having babies long before I was. And my grandmother was a avid crocheter. She could crochet doilies and afghans and just beautiful things. And she would often make us blankets and things like that. But for my sisters, she hand crocheted some baby booties that she gave each one of them one pair so that they could have their babies blessed in them on their blessing day. And so when I had kids, my grandma wasn't around. She had passed away, and I didn't have any baby booties. And so my oldest sister, she could crochet a little bit. I wouldn't say she was like my grandma where she crocheted all the time, but she had a mild talent for crocheting. And she actually looked at the baby booties our grandmother had crocheted for them and recreated them, spending hours and hours trying to make these baby booties. And she gave them to me as I had our first baby. And so we were able to bless our baby and, these baby booties that might not be a big deal to anyone else, but it was to me because they were full of love and tradition and just thoughtfulness.
Well, and I love when you're talking about this, these baby booties are important to you, you value them. Whereas if anyone else were to just come up and look at these baby booties, there would not be any value in these booties for them. So I love that example, knowing that the value is determined by us. It's not determined by, like you said, the cost or anything like that. And I think it's the same with people. It's the same with us individually and each of the people that are around us. We don't, obviously each of us is priceless, and our worth doesn't come from something that we've done, something that we've accomplished, or something that we've proven to someone else. It doesn't, our worth isn't determined by what we do. Our worth just simply exists because we exist. We are here, we are on this earth, we are alive, and we're loved and we're valued. And I think it's also important to recognize that our value comes from our divinity and from our identity as children of God. He values us no matter what we do. And I love knowing that too. I need to remind myself of that often.
I would feel really lost and unsure of my own value if I didn't know exactly who I was. And what I mean by that is I have grown up knowing that I'm God's daughter. Like, has anyone ever told you that you're a child of God? And if they haven't, let Alicia and I tell you right now, did you know that you're a child of God? Because once you know that, it doesn't matter what anybody else says, does, whatever. Like, that knowledge is yours, and it's what will allow you to frame your value, which is like, it's limitless potential.
Right.
So I love that. I love, the piece of knowing who we are.
So that reminds me of a poem that I heard a long time ago. And the poem is a little lengthy, and I don't want to recite the whole thing, but the title of it is called The Touch of the Master's Hand. And it has to do with a really old violin at an auction. And the auctioneer is just trying to sell it and get rid of it because he doesn't see the value in it at all. But then the master comes and tunes it and changes it, and he plays a melody on it that is just beautiful. And then everyone at the auction changes their mind about what the value of this violin is, and they start bidding thousands of dollars on it because the master has touched the violin. And that's kind of just representative of all of us. None of us is perfect, but we all have value. So go look up that poem. It's amazing.
Yes. And what's the name of it again, Alicia?
It's called The Touch of the Master's Hand.
I love that poem because the violin was the same. It was the same when nobody was bidding on it, and it was the same after the master had played it.
Yep.
And I just love it because the value is the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. Okay. What were you going to say?
Oh my goodness. Well, it just reminds me because we forget. Each of us forgets what our value is and what our worth is. And sometimes we need reminders.
Yes.
And I wanted to share just a quick example of one person in my life that reminded me of my value in a really simple way, but it was highly impactful. So when I was about probably 10 or 11 years old, I had the opportunity. My best friend's mom was a leader for the girls group in our church, and her name is Colleen Smith. And she was an angel on earth, I think. And she had all of us girls, there were probably about 4 or 5 of us that year in a group. And for our birthdays, she would make each of us a white pillowcase, and she would take scraps of material and cut out our names with the scraps and then applique it onto the pillowcase. And it was a really simple gift. But my birthday happens to be towards the end of the year, so I watched everyone else get their pillowcases before I did. And I was so excited because I knew that she was going to gift one to me too. And she invited me over to her house, and I sat next to her at the sewing machine, and I picked out the fabric that I wanted for my letters. And she sat there and sewed it all together for me. And it was just this wonderful reminder that she took time for me. She set aside a specific time and place and a gift for me that made me remember how much I was loved by her, and symbolically by the members of my church and by God. And it was such a sweet reminder to me that I'll never forget that.
I love that. And you get teary-eyed.
I do, because it's such a sweet story. It's special.
I love it because sometimes too, now that we are in our adult stage, it's our job. Like, it's our joy, it's our opportunity to find others, especially those that are young adults or children whose lives that we can do the same for.
Right.
And I love that. So what a great story. What a special lady she is. That's awesome. I have some quotes. I like quotes. We both do. And we love songs. But we really want to leave you with things to think about, because your worth is already been determined, and all you are trying to do is discover it for yourself. And you're going to go through this life, and it's going to be a fun, crazy, insane journey, and you get to discover things about yourself the whole entire way. I'm sure we're going to be like 100 and on the deathbed and still finding like these amazing discoveries about ourselves and our strength and who we are. And that's what's so incredible. One of the quotes that I want to share with you is from Brene Brown. And it's gold, because she says, the truth is, belonging starts with self-acceptance. Your level of belonging, in fact, can never be greater than your level of self-acceptance, because believing that you're enough is what gives you the courage to be authentic, vulnerable, and imperfect. And as I was reading that, I was thinking about the story of the violin.
Yeah.
You know, it was imperfect and it needed to be polished up a little, tuned. It needed just a little bit of TLC and some attention. And once it got the attention, it played a melody, a song, a tune that was amazing. And that's all we need too. And sometimes as women, we put ourselves on the back burner and we think, oh no, we've got to serve our families and we've got to put them first. And we run ourselves ragged. And it's so backwards, because if we could actually value us and take care of us, then we have so much more to give to others. And that's what she's saying too, the whole level of self-acceptance. If you have not learned to love yourself as you are in the body you have right now, you can get skinny and you will not love yourself then. Like, it's a truth. We have to open our hearts and our minds to where we are now and be loving and kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
Because the inside is what makes us, and that's not going to change. Our mindset, if we don't work on it, will be the same whether we're 200 pounds or 100.
Yes.
And we have to put in some work. And sometimes it will be the repetition of, you know what? You just ran that red light today, but I still love you, girl. Like, talk to yourself like you would your best friends.
Yes. And it's funny, I don't think we even realize that we have conversations with ourselves in our own heads, but it happens a lot.
It does. Yes.
So I think too, remembering our worth and our value gets easier when we practice remembering it. And in order to practice it, we have to be intentional. It's not something that we're like, oh yeah, I should do that. Or yeah, it'd be a good idea if I remembered that. Or, every 5 or 6 days be like, oh yeah, that was a goal that I had. We got to practice it every day, right? So doing something like writing that affirmation on your bathroom mirror.
In color,
Right?
yes.
Doing something that you are intentionally putting in your brain every day to remember your worth and your value. And it's so cool because when you do that, when you remember your value and your worth, you treat yourself differently and you treat other people differently. Nothing has changed about you or them, but your belief in yourself has changed how you view yourself and how you view other people. So this type of work is one of the best works that you can do.
Yes. And it starts with you. So I think it's time to dig in.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. I just thought of this. Find people and surround yourself with people that remind you of who you are.
Yes.
And your value. And listen to them. If you have trouble with putting those thoughts in your head and remembering that yourself, listen to the people who know and value you and will speak up and say those things.
Yes, because that's the important part here, is that sometimes you can't or you choose not to, is more like it. You choose not to believe in yourself. And so if you surround yourself with like your 5 best friends and you trust them, then in those moments of disbelief, you trust them to know better than you at that time.
Right.
And that's why we need our sis.
Yeah.
Because there's so many times I call Alicia and I'll come to her with a whatever, I'm blubbering. And she's like, Trio, let's think about this and let's talk it through. And by the time I get off the phone with her, I am like, oh yeah, I'm good. I can go win the battle today. Let's go.
Well, I have equal opportunities for you to do the same thing, blubbering in the car. And you're like, okay, we can do this. This is what we should do. Let's get you some rocking, running music. You can do some Taebo to work through, like whatever it is, right? Like we need assist. We need each other to remind ourselves of our worth and our value. So go find
Yes, and they have to, that's right. They have to be the people that you trust.
Yeah.
Because you will eventually own that own belief for you. I don't know if that made sense.
It does. It does. Because surrounding yourself with them helps you own who you are in an easier way. Yeah.
And it will become truth. And that's where your belief is, girlfriends. Like, let's go.
I love that. I love that. All right.
Okay.
Go win your day, sis. We love you. You've got this.
Totally.
Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts or suggestions for future episodes. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram and be sure to share some of your own personal wins so we can celebrate along with you.
And don't forget to click on the 3 dots below to share this episode with a friend who's on your heart today. Go win your day, sis.